Welcome back to another incredible episode of Rapid Results with Andrew Weiss. We have an incredible guest today, Dai Manuel. And I selected Dai as a guest today because just the energy he brings, not just to his social media, but his real life endeavors are just so incredible. And so, a little bit about Dai. He is a super dad, dating his wife with a lead by example way of living. He's passionate about leading a functionally healthy life through education, encouragement, and community. He's an award-winning digital thought leader and author, distinguished Toastmaster, TEDx speaker, and edutaining keynote speaker, former partner and chief operating officer of a multi-million-dollar retail company, as well as a sought-after lifestyle mentor and executive performance coach. On top of that, he models his work based on the 5 F's: fitness, family, faith, finances, and of course, fun. And he's excited to give you some nuggets of wisdom today to take action to be your best self, guaranteed when you connect with him. So, with that said, Dai, welcome to the show. Tell us, what is the biggest, most badass professional accomplishment you are most proud of?
Andrew, first of all, awesome to be here, brother. And I love, I'm just matching your energy, just straight up. Okay. I
I
had an
love it.
opportunity to
Yeah.
listen to a couple of your other broadcasts, and I knew I got to bring the energy today,
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so thanks for being just a great role model on that front. When it comes to professional endeavors, yeah, I've had a few check marks, but I've also had a few X's. But if I'm
Yep.
talking to the check marks, I'm really proud of one of my first companies I was a co-founder of, and we scaled it to 8 figures a year. And,
Yeah.
I was part of that company for 17 years, learned a lot about the industry, a lot about sales, a lot about managing a team. But what I'm actually most proud of as a result is that even though I was doing that and literally struggling with the juggling of all
Yeah.
things that is life, I was able to maintain an amazing relationship with my wife. We're now going into 23 years together, continuously dating, but also was able to raise two very amazing kids who are now 18 and 20 years old. Oh my goodness,
Wow.
dating myself. Two daughters, and so as much as I was very involved with scaling a business, developing a big team, I was able to maintain the things that truly are most important, which was my relationship with my family, but also maintain my health and well-being, especially my mental health. So not without struggles, but that's what I'm really proud of, because we hear a lot of the opposite on that, don't we? We hear
Yeah.
about, great, I went all in on my business, scaled, very successful, but then on the personal life, we tend to suffer. And so I'm really proud of that. I was able to maintain that. Not only that, I'm 46, I'm the fittest, healthiest, and most mentally healthy I've ever been in my entire life, but it doesn't come without a little bit of work.
And I love that. And I'm excited to dive in more about that. We're going over the hero's journey here at the top of the mountain. You're like, I've done it. I've created an 8 figure business. I have a healthy relationship with my wife. I have two amazing daughters who are at university. So you figure out how to get the trifecta essentially. How the heck did you know how to manage all that and balance all that? And what does that look like to achieve that?
Well, the least efficient way of learning, trial by error or trial by fire, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, all of us, we can either learn from our errors or we don't.
Yeah.
Kind of
Hmm.
doomed to repeat them, as the cliche goes. But for me, it was just very fortunate that I've had some pretty good mentorship in my life, some great coaches, some wonderful examples of just people that are excelling in ways that I wanted to excel. Like, I mean, look at your podcast. I mean, Andrew, I look at the conversations that you're allowing all of us to be little flies on the wall and listening in on. I mean, this is how we
Yeah.
learn and grow, right? As a society. and so I give it to my wife because that wasn't my intention at any point in time to go traveling like that.
Interesting.
It was all my
Yeah.
wife driving that boat, and I'm so glad she challenged me to do it because it changed my whole perspective on life. It really did.
Are either of your daughters entrepreneurial at all?
Well, my youngest, it was interesting during the pandemic. We're stuck in isolation, right? And during the lockdown, I got back into collecting comics again,
Naturally.
and collected too many of them. And my wife's like, "Dude, this is taking over that extra room in our house," and she's like, "You got to do something about this." And so I agreed to start paring down my collection and selling it. And I was very fortunate. My youngest daughter took an interest in that. And so we actually do have it's a hobby business. I mean, I'm not doing it to retire or anything by any means, but it's something fun that we can do together. So we do some comic shows. We've done a couple, like a Comic-Con. We've gone set up a booth, and so she has this. Because they used to help me a lot in my business. They would come and do the functions with us. They would come to any of the special events or conferences at times. We always took our kids and exposed them to that stuff. Because why not? Like even my Toastmasters clubs that I was a member of, I would take my kids to them.
Oh,
And
wow.
not all the members were always supportive of that, but I was like, I didn't care. They're my kids, and I want to expose
Yeah.
them to this. So tough, deal with it,
Yeah. Mhm.
And it was a great way to also educate them. And it also matured them really well because they can carry conversations with people much older than them. People always would walk away from it because like, how old are they? Like I
Yeah.
felt like I was talking to someone in their 30s. I'm like, well, they're just mature enough. They know how to handle a conversation.
Yeah.
Um, but that was a couple of those little instances, where it just yeah. Anyways, I digress. But I don't know if that even answered your question.
Yeah. Oh, I think you're talking about comic books, or they help you
Oh
sell
yeah,
your
comic
comic
books.
books or
Yes,
something?
she helps me with the comic book sales
Got
now.
it.
So
Okay.
she's taken an
Got
interest
it.
in with her eBay store and doing some online stuff, managing
Very
the
cool.
Instagram account. Like she's taken an interest in that. So yes, and then so yeah, that's really the entrepreneurial side of things. As my youngest is really taking an interest in that.
No, that's very, very cool. It's
Yeah,
good to see it passed down. That's what happened to me. I grew up with the entrepreneurial father, and so it's good to have
it's
that inspiration
awesome.
in your life.
I was the same way. I was the same way, by the way.
Oh, good. Yeah.
My parents and my mom always had a side hustle as well, and so that was like what I grew up around. Just seeing that all the time. So it was a pretty natural progression for me to move into that stuff too, just like yourself.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Yeah,
Well, I know we have a few minutes left here, so I have a
sure.
couple questions left. How do you battle imposter syndrome
Mm.
when you're going as far as, oh my gosh, I'm running successful businesses, I'm doing what I love, I have an amazing relationship with my wife, I have kids who are smart, mature, and actually fun to be around. How do you accept that to be okay with things going okay, essentially?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Full transparency, I do struggle with that still, time to time,
Hmm.
and I find when that little voice in my head starts to overpower my main voice. You know what I mean? That we have a certain way that we can speak to ourselves, that we can condition ourselves to respect ourselves, to love ourselves, to accept ourselves. But every once in a while, that little negative voice takes over, right? And I have to ask myself, why is that voice all of a sudden getting the megaphone?
Mm,
What's going on right now, or what have I been doing or not doing, more importantly, that's allowing that power to shift to that negative side of me to take over? Because really I'm no different than I was the week before, but why am I feeling this way about myself this week? And I
yeah.
have to start to look at the things that usually when I'm not doing consistently anymore. I look at my sleep patterns. I look at my relationship with my wife, my kids. Am I still feeling connected? Am I getting that relationship deposits? That love deposit from my family. Because if I'm feeling disconnected in those areas, it starts to affect me personally, and that little voice starts to take over. And so it's a matter of trying to right the ship, so to speak. Get back to doing the basics that I know will make me feel better in the instance. And so my wife and I, we have this little thing that we'll give each other permission to have FOFR days. So FOFR. And I invite anybody else to do this. Now, the first F is the F word. Okay. I don't know if we can swear on this, but I'm just going to say this is the F word. And then
Yeah.
it's off from reality. F
Mm,
off from reality days. What it is we give ourselves permission to take a day, clear our schedule, and do nothing but self care.
hmm.
one of my favorite things to do on one of those days, because I know I'm feeling bad or I'm down or my energy's in a bad place. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to do any interaction today with anybody because I'm not going to be my best self. It's not going to be positive. I'm going to walk away feeling like, oh, I could have done this, could have, you start second guessing everything. And so in that moment, I know I need a hard reset. And for those that are as old as me, you remember back on the computer keyboards, Control Alt Delete.
Yep.
The hard reset, right? So this is basically the hard reset. And what I'll do is I'll schedule in a massage. I'll get a haircut, especially during the winter months because I'm affected by SAD, seasonal effectiveness disorder, lack of sun. So you can imagine living in Canada 6 months of the year. It's like, oh my God, I feel sad. So I'll go to the tanning beds once a week, just so I get a little bit of that vitamin D. 10 minutes is all I need and I feel better.
Wow.
And so I'll haircut, massage. I will go for a quick tan. I'll go for a walk or a bike ride if the weather permits it. I'll get a workout in. I'll eat some really good, healthy meals, lots of greens, lots of veggies, lots of fruit. And you'll be amazed just doing that. And that could be just my morning. I feel freaking awesome. All of a sudden, I'm like looking in the mirror. I'm like, oh, there's that guy. There he is, and literally, like it's just giving yourself permission to prioritize yourself. And I'm not saying take weeks and months. I'm like, give yourself 4 hours, 3 hours. I mean, it doesn't matter because you're worth it. You're worth it. You're worth the little bit of time because it's going to make such a difference to how you interact with those that matter most to you. And really, that's what we do, isn't it? It's for the people that we love, and so that is something that we started implementing maybe, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago. And it makes a big deal. I don't have them that often, but I actually had one last week. I had an FOFR day last week. I just wasn't feeling myself. I was feeling down. I don't remember even why. But I was like, Christy, I cleared my schedule tomorrow. I'm going to have an FOFR day. She's like, good for you. And they're like, yeah, thanks, baby. And so that's a strategy that's really worked well for me.
I love that FOFR. And I like what you said too, that, if you are feeling down, if you're not feeling as grateful or as happy as you should be, like what you said, what's your brain trying to tell you? Like, why is that voice showing up? Like, what's it trying to get at? Because maybe there is some danger you're overlooking, or maybe there is, like you said, a relationship that you're not paying attention to and something you could be focusing more on. So that's a good way to put it, is instead of trying to ignore it, just be like, oh, trying to embrace it more, essentially.
Exactly. And to be fair, I didn't mention as well, but turn off all the devices. Just because it's an FOFR day doesn't mean it's Netflix and chill day.
Yeah.
It also doesn't mean it's a consume a lot of social media day. Because you'll find that will impact your mental state. Especially if you're already in a down state, it's amazing how that social media, those filtered shares that people put up, can affect us negatively, psychologically speaking. And so it's conserving how we feel and protecting ourselves. So turn off a lot of those inputs, whether it's negative or positive. Don't worry about it. Just turn it off. Don't worry. When you turn your phone back on, it's still going to be there. You're not missing anything. But it's important to unplug so you can plug into yourself. And so that's just one little piece, and I forgot to mention that.
Well, I love that too. And maybe give the password to your wife or something and said, don't give it to me until the end of the day or something. So
yes.
Obviously for Face ID, I guess that doesn't work, but
yeah, that's right.
I'm sure she can hide it.
I just turn it off. I turn it off. I'm just off and I leave it. I don't even bring it with me,
I love that. Let's see. I know we're coming up on time here. I have so many questions I want to ask you, Dai. You're just so fun to talk to, full of knowledge. And it's so awesome hearing the nuggets you have to share. I know you're one of your ambitions is to help 1 million role models around the globe. I'm curious, how are you working on doing that, and how close are you for us tuning in? It's awesome to follow along the hero's journey. And of course, he's our guest today. Love housing the hero. We're curious, how are you going about going after that?
Well, it's a hard thing to quantify for sure. All right. But it doesn't mean I'm not after it and going for it. But rather than just inspiring the individuals to make changes for themselves, I'm like, do that. It's a great place to begin. But once you've gained that self-awareness, self-knowledge on how to right the ship, so to speak, get yourself back to a place of thriving versus feeling like you're barely surviving. Once you've been imparted with that experience, it's amazing because on the hero's journey, they talk about it, right? You get to the top of that hill and it's like, whoa, I made it here. There's a lot of people that helped me get here. And when you turn around, you look back, there's a bunch of people at the bottom of the hill getting ready to go. And they need some help. They need some guidance. They need that guide that can help them get the journey started, or maybe navigate the middle of the journey, the end of the journey, whatever. I want to try to inspire others, educate, inspire, and motivate them, hopefully in a fun way, to then themselves turn around and now mentor a few other people to do the same thing that they've done. And that's all I'm looking to inspire. Again, I don't need to do it. I'm helping who I can help. But if I've helped you, please go help somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's all. Like I'm like any content I don't care. Take it. Do whatever you want with it. If it's going to help and you can share with somebody else to help them generate the same sort of impact, and they can do it again and again and again, I feel really good and I sleep well at night.
I love
So
that.
through my book, through my content, through my speaking engagements, through the media appearances, I mean, there's so many things that I do, but that's all the underlying purpose of why I'm doing it, is to try to make a greater impact in this world. And so when I leave, when I'm 130, 40 years old, because I do intend to live to that age.
All right. Okay.
We'll
Okay.
see. I mean, I'll make it hit by a bus, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But regardless, my ambition is to live a long life.
Yeah.
Not just longevity, but have my vitality. And I want to be able to see through that when I leave this planet, I can say, hey, I'm leaving it better than it was when I got here, and
Yeah.
that's really part of my life mission. And I feel inspiring role models is the way to do that.
Oh, I totally agree. I love that. Well, the
Thanks.
last two questions are, how can we best contact you, Dai? How can we get a hold of you, connect with you? How can people reach out to you, learn more? What's the best way to do that?
Thanks, Andrew. Well, I'm a pretty social dude, meaning that you can connect with me on pretty much any social platform, and I'm easy to find because I got such a unique name. Dai, Dai, is a Welsh name for David. Manuel is Portuguese, Manuel. Yeah, I know. Everyone's like, Welsh and Portuguese. Whoa. Hey, I'm Canadian. Don't worry about it. Okay, so it's you know what I mean. And but if you can spell that name, you'll find me on any platform. But if you want to connect, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, I'm most active on. If you shoot me a DM, I only ask for a little bit of grace because I don't let anybody else touch my communications. Nobody on my team. I do that myself.
Wow.
But I do ask for a little bit of grace because if I don't get back to you right away, don't worry. I will get back to you. It just might be a few days. But that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. Just shoot me a note and say, hey, I heard you and Andrew talking. Here's my life ambitions. Like here's what I'm doing to change the world. And it's a great place to start a conversation.
Well, I love that. And the fact that you're so open to accepting requests too. And people are like, oh yeah, I'm too busy. But in fact, it's actually you too. Not like, oh, this is Jessica from Dai's team. It's like, no, it's me. So
it's just me, so it's all good. But I like that. Okay. I like connecting with people. It fulfills me. It makes me feel good. And it just gives me an opportunity to live into that goal of inspiring a million role models. So, I welcome it. Bring it.
Love it. And then the final question is, what's the one takeaway you want someone to have from this interview today?
Ooh. Change is going to happen whether you like it or not. Buddha, like 2,600 years ago, okay, a guy much wiser than me. Yep. He said, there's only one thing we know to be absolutely certain. It's that nothing stays the same. This universe of ours is impermanent. Everything's in a state of flux and a state of change. Now, it's funny. We fast forward 100 years, science caught up to say, hey, you know what? Buddha was right. He's absolutely correct. That is the nature of the universe. It's just a bunch of space and everything's changing. When you accept that as a truth, change becomes different, and it becomes something that we can embrace. It doesn't mean we have to like it, but we can embrace it, work through it, but also be an advocate for change in our own lives. And I hope that's the one thing that people take away is that you feel a little bit more positive about change. And next time you see it coming, like that big boulder chasing Indiana, you're like, okay, I can move out of the way. I don't have to freak out. It's coming anyways, right? So why not have more fun with it and learn how to make it a positive rather than feel like it's a negative. And so that would be the one takeaway I'd love people to take away today.
Oh, an excellent takeaway indeed. Well, thank you again, Dai. This has definitely been a blast. For those tuning in, definitely reach out to Dai on social media, on his website. If you notice the energy and knowledge he brings today, just imagine what he can bring to your own life. So with that said, tune in next week for another episode of Rapid Results with Andrew Weiss, and we'll see you all soon. Bye, everyone.